You know what? There's no script here. The script isn't working. Things are going wrong. Let's lean into that. That is the most human thing we can do. And I think that's where great leadership moments happen. And they happen all the time. Now, I did a talk, a Disrupt HR talk. It's that 5-minute power slide talk that you do. I did one of those last November on this topic and why I think AI is trying to read the room. And I hope it never does, because that's our job. That's the human thing. And I believe AI works with humanity. It's a teammate. So I'm not anti-AI. I came out of software and high tech, not at all incompatible with humanity. The question then becomes is, are we willing to embrace those moments? So during this Disrupt HR talk, which went great, we filmed in front of a live audience. Here's what happened. For some of the speakers, there was a glitch and then the audio didn't come out. Oops. Perfect example of having to let go and improvise. Adaptability is our thing. Such a great example. So then we ended up having to re-record it. And this time we recorded online. And without that live audience, it was a different energy. It wasn't a bad energy. It was a different energy, but there was nothing I could really do. Again, if you want to lead the room, you got to read the room. And it happens when we let go and go, you know what? I'm doing the best I can. Let's just lean into the skid. So that's really the topic of this week's newsletter. So there's a lot of things we can do. Let's just jump to the meat of it, because you can listen to this or you can read it. Basically, look, so the way that I want us to think about it is, I want us to think about, picture this, you're 3 minutes into your talk or your meeting or your high stakes presentation, or maybe a comedy set, or maybe you're doing an improv show and somebody in the first row shouts something unexpected. And then you have to laugh or not, or it's not. Maybe it's a heckle, maybe it's a challenger, maybe it's a devil's advocate in a meeting. Well, we have to stop and we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room and deal with what's right in front of us, not continue to push our agenda, which I see so many leaders do. And that is never leadership. Leadership says, okay, I hear you. It has changed. There's an elephant in the room. Let's meet the moment. Stop with the scripts, everybody. Stop. Let go. Let go. And it's a lot like crowd work. If you are in the middle of a set as a comedian, sometimes stuff goes wrong. Maybe a joke doesn't land. Maybe the audience is part of the show. Sometimes you get drunk people as part of the show. Sometimes they heckle you, and sometimes they're funny, and you just play with them. And sometimes you got to deal with the elephant in the room. So how do we do that? There's a lot of ways to really think about it. I'm just going to go through a couple, give you sort of the highlights here. You just look, drop the slide deck, just drop it all together, acknowledge what's happening. But I want you to see the interruptions as opportunities. Sometimes, you'll get interrupted and it's a heckle situation. It's not good. And it's not good, and it's not, it's harmful. It's not an opportunity. But sometimes interruptions are opportunities. How many times you're presenting and maybe you have a devil's advocate in the room, and you can say, well, wait till the presentation's over. You can do that. What if you said, hey, tell me more? Tell me more why you think that. And what would happen if you met people where they're at? Instead of saying, well, wait till I'm done. And I can tell you, I've sat in a lot of VC presentations, and I've been in startups and big companies. And if you say to a VC, and I've seen this happen where somebody's doing a really good pitch, and the VCs won't wait for you to do your 20, 30-minute windup. And if they move you ahead and you say, no, 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 I'm not there. You're going to wait for my presentation to be over. That's it. You've lost, because you've basically, you've lost your audience. Believe me, if you think it's not over, it's over. And that doesn't work well with funding folks. So, but if it is just a regular, hey, what about this? What about that? What would it cost you to drop the conversation and meet people where they're at? Nothing. But you have to do the math if it's harmful or not. Look, engage. Just engage. There's no halfway to this stuff. Look, make it a conversation. If it's messy, that's fine. Get in the mess. Sometimes the best understanding we have with our team, or in a meeting, in a high stakes presentation, is what comes out of the conversation in that moment. Because a conversation, it's not about a script. A conversation is co-created. So learn to be able to let go on that. Always stay true to your point of view. Should be obvious. it's not about having to drop where you're at because you've been challenged. Quite the opposite. I think great leaders, they know who they are. They can drop the script because they know who they are, what they value. They know their message so well inside and out that at a moment's notice, if they have to drop the script, if something interrupts, something happens, there's a disruption, they can read the room. They can read the room and follow the energy, because reading the room, everybody, is about following the energy and meeting people where they're at. It's not the energy you wish that you had. It's the energy that shows up. And how much better would it be if even in our meetings day to day, if a team has low morale, if a team is scared, if something has happened, then we don't pretend that it hasn't. We just meet people where they're at and we talk about the vibes in the room and change the agenda to deal with people where they're at. That would make such a huge difference. It's really important. So you don't have to change your message, but change the delivery. Be flexible on the delivery. That's all it really is about. And just, build trust by being a human, whatever the response. You don't have to be perfect. Just deal with what you got where you're at. And if you can do that, it really makes a big difference. And so, you're not really talking about winging it so much. I think it's really structured spontaneity. What people get wrong about thinking like an improviser and reading the room and following the energy and being adaptable, it doesn't mean that, we're just kind of winging it. We prepare. Improvisers, we run our drills, we practice, we rehearse so that when we have shows, we're in sync. We're in sync and our skills are snapping and we're ready to go. We're ready at a moment's notice. Somebody makes an offer and it changes the conversation. We follow and we yes and make that partner look good, and we go wherever they want to go. So it's really important to understand that it's not about just kind of winging it. It's knowing as a leader your message so well that if you are disrupted, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're okay. You'll be okay no matter what, because you know your message. And that's really what it is. So I think of a bold leader as really having an improv mindset. Have an improv mindset, and here's some things to try. If this is something that, maybe you're not used to thinking about, here's some things to try. Some of you I know on my list you've taken improv, and that's amazing. For those of you who maybe haven't taken an improv class, you won't regret it. It's a lot of fun. But instead of making it really hard, think of developing that mindset in three really easy ways. And here's three easy ways, I think, to sort of flex that muscle. Instead of, what if this fails? One of the ways that you can kind of adapt your mindset is, what is something we could learn from trying? Okay, what if it fails? What if it does? Well, what could we learn from it? What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? Instead of being afraid, all right, what could we learn if something doesn't work out? What would that look like? Another thing is, and I see this a lot, we need more data. People are so hesitant to make decisions with imperfect data, but there's no such thing as perfect data. And, there's never going to be perfect data in a world where everything is fast moving. So instead of saying, hey, we need more data, what's the smallest risk we can take today? That's the bold move. What is the smallest risk we can take right now to maybe prove some assumptions or test some assumptions and see where it goes? It's not all or nothing. What's right in front of you? Follow the energy today. And how can you kind of read the energy in the room of innovation, of any meeting, anything really? And it's really, I think, being adaptable and this mindset. And another one that I really like is the one that I hear a lot is, this is how we've always done it. This is our plan. This is our system. And I think it's helpful to rethink it and say, okay, if we were starting again today, fresh, what would we build? What would we do different? And I think that's a better question to ask, because chances are we would do something different.